Hey guys, Chris here with Chris's Tech Tips. We are going to be tackling this 2007 Yamaha WR450. We are going to be rebuilding the rear shock. Yeah, I'm just going to do a step-by-step basic principles on, changing the seal head out on it and then freshen it back up with some new shock oil, putting it back together, and yeah, we'll get this rear suspension feeling great. A lot of people don't look at suspension oil and refreshing like fork oil and shock oil every year because I don't know if you've ever noticed this, and then if you haven't, you might try this. The next time you go down a whooped out trail for a mile or so, pull off to the side and fill that shock reservoir with your hand. Just lightly touch it because it's hot and that oil cooks. So you know that oil is getting used, so it's a good idea to change that once a year. All right, let's get into it. Okay, now the first thing we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna measure where the shock was actually set. So we're gonna measure from the top of the shock, and on this one I measured 9.5 inches. Of course, if this shock is dirty, these threads will be a bugger, and to get this lock nut to spin and stuff, you'll definitely want to take this whole assembly over to the solvent tank, clean it up. So I've already done that, so I'm just going to show you. We'll just pull this spring off, and the way this comes off, you just run these spring lock nuts up. And there's this shock bumper in here. You want to push that up. This little spacer comes out through the side. See, it's got the little boom like that, and the spring and that lock washer all come out like so. Boom, like that. I'll put this over. Then of course I'm using my Park tool here. This is actually more or less like a bicycle stand holder for mechanics, but this works great for suspension, forks, and shocks. It's got the rubber clamp on here, so it doesn't really do any damage. It's a lot better than a vise. Right here, you're gonna get a lot of dirt build up down in here and then right in here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this over to the solvent tank, clean this up once more, and then we'll start disassembling the body. All right, now that we've got this all the way clean, I'm gonna go ahead and take the rebound and compression adjusters all the way out. Okay, now the most important thing is to let the nitrogen out so this thing doesn't have high pressure, because this thing can be very dangerous. And like I say, if you don't feel comfortable doing this, and I do go ahead and rebuild suspension, through the mail. So if you're, of course, in the United States, we can get you, mail that shipped off and fixed up and set to your weight. Of course, we do different valving for different riding applications also. So now that we've got the nitrogen out, I'm going to go ahead and push this bladder down. I'll just take a soft mallet. Now you can see that sunk down in there. There's a little counter ring holding that piece in. Now we're going to get that off. Counter ring and a little circlip. Okay, now I'm using a set of my Mac picks. Any good sharp pick, you get that one side to lift up and pull that out. Just go around the other way. Just like so. Okay, now to get this bladder out, you want to hit it with just a tiny bit of air, and this will push this whole bladder system out. But you want to make sure you have a rag over it. Probably ought to get a drain pan, because it does tend to get a little messy. And you see how that lifted all that way up? Just got to keep going until it pops off. It might make a little pop, just like so. And you see how that suspension fluid's coming out now? Bottom cap, and this rubber piece right here is your diaphragm that holds all the nitrogen in. Now we can go ahead and remove the actual shock shaft. So on this one, we should have, there's a hole on two different ends. Now what this is it lets water drain from when you're riding through the water and mud and stuff. So you want this forward and back of the bike. So if the shock is sitting like this, in the front wheel and rear wheel, so you want those holes to line up like this, because then the water is going to drain at the lowest point. All right, let's go ahead and pop this off. And I usually just take a little punch. There you go. Have a couple rubber bands around, just in order to hold this guy up. That way he's out of your way. It's a seal head decompression tool made by Racetech. This works nice. It wraps around. The actual shock shaft sits inside the body and goes around this outer seal, so no damages there. You just lightly press that down. That'll reveal that bottom clip down there. Yeah, and you can see this is why I have that rubber band there. So this doesn't fall down because you got to dig this clip out. But we got some more dirt and debris in there, so I'm going to go ahead and clean that. All right, now that we've got that dirt and debris out of there, cleaned up pretty good, there is another circlip. So let's fish that bad boy out of there. Just like so. And of course they're different sizes, so you won't get them mixed up. You know, of course you want to clean all this stuff really, really good. Okay, this one, I'm going to remount this. Because these ones are a little tougher to get out. So you just have to wiggle this bad boy back and forth. Be careful not to hit yourself in the head. Like so. Now that we've got that out, I'm going to go ahead and take all this over the solvent tank, clean all these parts up. Then I'll show you how to change the shock body, or the seal head. Now you can see the top of the shock valve system. Here's the shock seal head. This has got to come up and off. So what you've got here is your valve, and you've got your shim stacks on the top and the bottom. This nut here is actually peened over onto the shaft, so this will pretty much not come off. So what you need to do is take this top layer of this peen portion off the top of that nut, then we'll be able to back this whole assembly off, and I'll kind of show you how you do that. Also, you do not want to drop or have any of these shims fall out of place because they are in a specific order, designed specifically for this bike. So what I've done here, a piece of brazen rod, and just kind of bend it around so I can stick it down in here. Once I get this bolt off, and I'll show you, I can take this whole assembly, slide it up on here, and it all stay in the same spot. So when I go back to put it together, I can just slide all that assembly back on, and I'll show you how that works. And I have to stress, if you don't feel comfortable, then definitely have a certified mechanic professional do this. All right, you see I've pretty much taken that all the way flat across. 17 millimeter. See that little thread come off there? And then I'll go back up down, just to make sure those threads are okay. Back up, keep those threads clean. That way, 9 times out of 10, you don't have to rethread it. And I'll lock that back down. There's still a little booger there I'm going to clean up. Alright, now that my compressor's shut off, I can show you how to do this. So, you've got the nut off. Just stick that down there, in there, and then I just lift this whole body assembly. I want to be careful. Sometimes it catches. Voila. Now we've got this whole assembly in order. I can go over to the solvent tank and clean all this up, drop it back on, everything's back in place. Works like a charm. Now we'll go ahead and pull the shock body off. It's like my rubber band broke, but I've got more. Pull that shock body off. I'm going to go ahead and clean this and clean down inside there for, maybe some of the metal fragments and whatnot in there. So we'll clean all that, come back, and then start assembling.